All right, so today we're going to do law of cosines. All right, so you use law of cosines to solve triangles that do not have 90-degree angles. So you can use this to solve any triangle. You can actually use it to solve a right triangle as well. But more specifically, you use these formulas when you do not have a 90-degree angle. So first we're going to start by writing down what the formulas are. There are three formulas for law of cosines. You have one for each variable angle. So we're going to start with the one that has angle A in it. So the formula would be A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C times the cosine of angle A. Right, and I'm actually going to rewrite that a little smaller. So let's see if I can try to. A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C times cosine of angle A. All right, so that is the first one. The second one is going to have the angle B in it. So you have B squared this time equals, all right, the other two legs squared. So that would be A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C cosine of angle B. All right, and then the last one where you would use angle C would be C squared this time equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine of C. All right, so those are your three formulas for law of cosines. You would pick which one of the three to use based upon how your triangle was labeled in your given information. So let's look at example 1. So it says solve for x. So they give us a triangle. All right, we have a angle measurement of 22. We have a side length of 11 and another side of 12. And they would like us to find side x. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is label my triangle. It does not matter which angle is which. However, you just have to make sure that the way you label your angles, your sides have to correspond. All right, so let's just say this is angle A, this is angle B, and this is angle C. Well, I would label my sides where my angle is opposite of the matching side. So 12 is going to be side A, X is going to be side B, and then 11 is going to be side C. All right, so they give me the angle measurement of B. So you always want to pay attention to the angle. That's going to tell you which formula to use because each of the three formula uses all three sides. So in the first formula, there's an A, a B, and a C. In the second formula, there's an A, a B, and a C, as well as the third, A, B, and C. So the only way to differentiate between which one to use is going by the angle measurement. So in our example, we have the measurement for angle B. So I'm going to pick the formula that has angle B in it, and that would be this one. All right, so I'm going to start by writing down my formula. So B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C times cosine of angle B. All right, so now that I picked out which formula to use, I'm going to substitute my information into my formula. So little b is x, little a is 12, little c is 11. It's 2 times a, which is 12, times C, which is 11, times cosine of angle B, which is 22. All right, so now I'm going to simplify. All right, so 12 squared would be 144. 11 squared would be 121. All right, so then again, I would multiply. So I would do 2 times 12, which is 24. And then I will multiply 24 times 11, which gives me 264. And then, of course, that's still times cosine of 22. All right, and then I would just simplify some more. All right, I would combine my like terms. All right, right now I have 144 and 121 that is alike. All right, I haven't done anything with the cosine of 22 yet. I could have multiplied it all at one time as if I wanted to, but I just chose not to. So now I'm going to add 144 and 121, and you get 265. All right, so this is still multiplication. All right, so in my calculator, I'm going to do 264 times cosine of 22. So many students make the mistake of doing 265 minus, and then they want to subtract the 264 without doing the cosine of 22. Well, multiplication comes before addition and subtraction. So the rules of order of operations still apply. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to perform my multiplication. All right, so I'm going to find out what cosine of 22 is. If I put cosine of 22 into the calculator, I would get 0.927 and some other numbers back there. And then I would take that 0.927 and I would multiply that by 264 to get 244.78. And I'm just going to round to the nearest hundredth for a little more accurate answer. So now that I have done 264 times cosine of 22 and gotten an answer, now I can perform subtraction. So that would give me x squared equals, and I would do 265 minus 244.78, and you would get 20.22. All right, this would not be the end of the problem because this says x squared. So I have to get rid of the x squared by canceling it out. All right, so you would do the opposite of squaring something, which is the square root. So I would take the square root of both sides to get my final answer. And the square root of 20.22 is going to be 4.5. And that will be my final answer. So x is equal to 4.5. All right, so let's take a look at the second example. So it says solve triangle XYZ. All right, so when they ask you to solve a triangle, all right, they want you to find all of the missing pieces. So in this particular problem, we are missing angle X. We are missing angle Y. And we are missing angle Z. So I am going to rename my letters just so they can match with my formula. So in my formulas, I use A, B, and C. So what I'm going to do is instead of using X, Y, and Z, I'm going to change this to A, B, and C. All right, so that means 17 would be little c because it is opposite little c. 23 would be little b because it is opposite big B. And then 15 would be little a because it is opposite of big A. All right, so I have angles and I have my side measurements. All right, so I have to find all three of the angles. All right, so I can pick any one of these formulas to start with because I have to find all of them anyway. All right, so I'm just going to start with A. All right, and so since now I would like to solve for angle A, I'm going to use the formula that has angle A in it. All right, so again, I'm going to start with my formula. That would be A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus BC cosine of A. All right, now I'm going to substitute. A is 15, so this would be 15 squared. B is 23, so that's 23 squared. C is 17. All right, little b is 23. Little c is 17. And I missed the 2. All right, so let me erase. I missed a part of my formula. All right, so this should have been minus 2 times BC. All right, so make sure when you are copying that you do copy the formula correctly and not make the same mistake that I did. All right, so that'll be 2 times 23 times 17. All right, cosine A. So now I am going to simplify. So 15 squared would give me 225. $23 squared would give me 529. 17 squared would be 289. All right, I'm going to do 2 times 23 times 17, which will give me 782. All right, and then that's still times cosine of angle A. All right, next thing I want to do is combine my like terms. So 529 and 289 are like terms. So I'm going to combine them together. So 529 plus 289 will give me 818. Right, everything else will stay the same. All right, so now I want you to think about this as a basic two-step equation. All right, so even though this says cosine of A, you have to understand this 782 is a coefficient of this variable. All right, so even though cosine is a function, all right, think about this whole thing as a variable. So let's just say this was 818 minus 782A. I'm gonna write that on the side. So let's just say the equation was 225 equals 818 minus 782A. All right, so when solving this equation, the first thing I would do is get rid of anything added or subtracted. So I would subtract 818 on both sides. All right, so 225 minus 818 will give me negative 593. So then left, on the other side, I would have negative 782A. All right, then this is multiplication. So to cancel out multiplication, next thing I would do is divide. So So after you would divide on both sides, for the left side, which is 593 divided by 782, negative 593 divided by negative 782, you would get negative 0.56. So you get negative 0.758, sorry. And I'm going to round that to 2 decimal places. So it would give me positive 0.76. All right, and then of course this would become 1, so that would cancel out. And then I would have A equals 0.76. All right, the only difference between what we've done here and what's over here is that A really and truly represents cosine of A. All right, so the steps would be the exact same. So I would subtract the 818 on both sides to get negative 593 equals negative 782 cosine A. And then I would divide both sides by negative 72 to get 0.76 equals cosine A. So like I said, the steps are exactly the same. Just imagine the cosine was not there. All right, so you would subtract the constant on both sides, and then you would divide by the coefficient next to those variables. All right, so now I have to solve for A. All right, you solve for A by performing the inverse. So I would do cosine inverse, which is cosine to the negative 1 of 0.76 into my calculator. And I would get 40.68, in which I would round that to 40.7 degrees. So angle A would be 40.7 degrees. Okay, so let's extend the page. So I am going to need some more room here. So that will take care of my angle A. So now I want to find angle B. So I did that in blue. So I want to change my marker color to blue. All right, so again, it's going to be the same. All right, I'm going to pick the formula that has the B in it. So now I'm going to do, and I'm going to write it over here on the side because I'm running out of space over here. So I would have B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus, that's a 2. So minus 2 times A times C times cosine of angle B. All right, and then I want to substitute. So little b is 23. So that's 23 squared. Little a is 15. Little c is 17. 17 squared minus 2 times 15 times 17 cosine of angle B. Right, so again, I'm going to simplify. So I'm going to have 23 squared, which is 529. I'm going to have 15 squared, which is, excuse me, 225. 17 squared, which is, all right, so 17 squared, which is 17 times 17, is going to be 289. All right, then we would do 2 times 15, which is 30, and then 30 times 17, which is 510. So that would be minus 510 cosine of B. All right, so again, I'm going to combine my like terms. So 225 and 289 are like terms. So I would add 225 plus 289 to get 514. So this will be 529 equals 514 minus 510 cosine B. Excuse me. All right, so again, just like we did up here, imagine that cosine B is just one variable. So imagine that this said 510B. All right, so to solve for that variable, I get rid of anything added or subtracted first. So I will remove the 514 by subtracting it on both sides. All right, so that will cancel out. And then 529 minus 514 is going to be 15. So I will get 15 equals negative 510 cosine B. Right, then I would divide by negative 510 on both sides. And you would get 0. I'm sorry, not because it's supposed to be negative. Got my negative sign. Please make sure you pay attention to your signs. So it would be negative 0.03, and I'm going to round it to 0.3. This would cancel out. I will be left with cosine B. All right, and then the last step is going to be to do the inverse. So remember, you get rid of the cosine here by the variable by doing the inverse. So B is going to equal cosine to the negative 1, which is cosine inverse, of negative 0.03. And angle B would equal 91.7 degrees. So now I know angle A is 40.7. I know angle B is 91.7. All right, so I can now use triangle sum theorem that just says that all three angles should sum to 180 degrees. Instead of using trig again, instead of using log cosines again, I can just use the triangle sum theorem. All right, so I would do angle A plus angle B plus angle C equals 180. Well, we found angle A to be 40.7, angle B to be 91.7, right, and then plus angle C should equal 180. So I would combine my like terms, so 40.7 plus 91.7 would give me 132.4. So 132.4 plus C equals 180. Then I would solve for C by subtracting the 132 on both sides. 132.4. And you would get C is equal to 47.6 degrees. So I have solved my triangle and I have found every missing angle, A, B, and C. All right, so I'm going to give you some time to try you try it on your own. So go ahead and press pause so that you can try that one on your own. Once you get your answer, press play again so you can watch my explanation. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do is draw the picture. So they did not provide the picture for you. All right, so I'm going to draw one over here in the corner. All right, so I'm going to label it. This would be, I can label that as A, I can label that as B, and I can label this one here as C. So it tells me angle A is 66 degrees. So this would be 66. tells me little b is 16. And remember, little b is opposite of big B. All right, so this would be 16. And then little c, so that would be opposite of little c, is 21. Right, and then that is A. So the next thing I want to do, pick my formula. All right, so remember, you go by the angle measurement. All right, so the angle that I have is A. All right, and so I am going to use formula 1. All right, so formula 1, and I'm just going to separate this here. So formula 1 is A squared plus B. I'm sorry, I'm about to give you Pythagorean theorem. Start over. All right, so first is A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of A. All right, so that's the formula that I'm going to use because I have angle A, and that's what I am going to use a formula that has angle A in it. So A is unknown. All right, so I'm going to leave that as A. I keep wanting to put a plus sign there. All right, equals. So B is going to be 16, so I'm going to have 16 squared. C is going to be 21, so I'm going to have 21 squared. 2 times B, which is 16, times C, which is 21, and then the cosine of angle A, which is 66. All right, so now let's go ahead and simplify. So 16 squared will give me 256. So this would give me A squared equals 256 plus, and then 21 squared will give me 441. And then I would do 2 times 16 times 21, which is 672. Bring down my cosine 66. All right, so multiplication. All right, so I'm going to multiply my 672 cosine 66, and you can actually combine like terms and do your multiplication in the same step just because it is separate. But I'm going to go ahead and do multiplication first this time. So I'm going to leave this alone. So 256 plus 441 minus, all right, so 652 cosine of 66 would give me 273.33. All right, and now I can do all of this together at one time. So I can do 256 plus 441 minus 273.33. And that would give me 423.67. All right, so now the last thing is to get rid of this exponent here. And I get rid of the exponent by doing the square root. So that means A would equal square root of 423.67. And if I take the square root of that, I would get 20.58. And I would round that to 20.6. So the side measurement of little a is 20.6. All right, so now I am going to pick one of the other two angles to solve for. It does not matter which one you choose because you have to find both of them anyway. All right, I do have the side measurement for C, and I also have the side measurement for B, so it's not like I'm missing any information. All right, so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to do B second. So I'll do that one in red. All right, so of course I'm looking for angle B, so I'm going to pick the formula that has the B in it, big B in it, all right, which would be B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C. Why did I write it like that? I don't know. Let's go back. So 2 times A times C cosine of angle B. So let's do our substitutions. B is 16. So this would be 16 squared. A is 20.6. So this would be 20.6 squared. C is 21. So that would be 21 squared. Minus 2 times 20.6 times 21 cosine B. All right, so then you do your simplifications. So I'm going to do 16 squared, which is 256. Then I'm going to do 20.6 squared, which is 424.36. Then I'll do 21 squared, which is 441. All right, minus 2 times 20.6 times 21, which is 865.2 cosine B. All right, so I do have a couple of like terms on the same side, so I'm going ahead and combine those. So I'm going to bring my 256 down. I'm going to have 424.36 plus 441. And that would give you 865.36. Right, and I bring down my 865.2 cosine B. All right, so again, make sure you treat this as one variable. Okay, so think about this as solving an equation. So I have to get rid of anything added or subtracted first. So I would subtract 865.36 on both sides. All right, so that will cancel out. All right, and 256 minus 865.36 would give me negative 609.36. And then I bring down my negative 865.2 cosine B. All right, then I would divide. All right, and I'm getting a little smaller here. So then I would divide negative 865.2 on both sides. All right, so this will cancel out. And I would get 609.36 divided by 865.2, which is positive 0.70. So that will equal cosine B. All right, then the last step is to get rid of this cosine. And remember, you get rid of cosine by doing cosine inverse. Right, and that looks like cosine with the negative 1. And I would type that in my calculator to get 45.22. So B is equal to 45.22. 45.2 degrees. All right, so we know angle A is 66. We know now that angle B is 45.2. All right, so to find the last angle, angle C, remember I don't have to use law of cosines anymore because I do have two of the three angles. And triangle sum theorem tells me that angle A plus angle B plus angle C is 180. Angle A we know to be 66. Angle B we know to be 45.2. And angle C is what we're looking for. And that should give me 180. All right, so 66 plus 45.2 would give me 111.2. And then I would subtract 111.2 on both sides to get 68.8 degrees. So I have found small a, big B, and little c. So usually whenever you have to solve a triangle, you're going to have three at least, you're going to have at most three missing pieces. All right, sometimes you may have two, sometimes you may have one to find, but majority of the time if they say solve the triangle, you'll have three pieces of information to find. All right, so hopefully this helped you to learn how to do law of cosines. Thank you so much for watching this video.